On Christmas Eve in 1935, passers-by made a startling discovery inside an expensive luxury car, a sleeping beauty sitting quietly behind the wheel. She wore the most gorgeous evening gown and dazzling jewelry, yet she had taken her last breath inside a sealed garage. Known to the world as the Ice Cream Girl, Hollywood superstar Thelma Todd was only 29 years old when she passed away. She was among the highest-earning women in Hollywood at that time, and her restaurant was always filled with the most powerful men in the city. Still, when she died in such an almost perfect posture inside her own garage, the entire city chose to remain silent. It was a paradox of that era. She was the unattainable sweetheart in everyone's eyes, yet she died alone, lost and abandoned. To fully tell this story, we must go back to that oppressive night in 1935, thick with the smoky scent of fame and vanity. By then, Thelma Todd was far more than just an actress. She owned the famous Todd Sidewalk Cafe, popular all across California. It was not only a gathering spot for celebrities but also a transit point for desire and power. In the months before her death, Thelma carried an almost hidden sense of vigilance in her expression. Those suited men whispering and laughing in the private booths cast a long shadow over this gentle star's life. Rumor spread that the mafia had set their sights on her business. They planned to open illegal gambling stalls inside her cafe, turning the peaceful seaside into a slaughterhouse of greed. Thelma refused their demands. As an independent woman striving to survive in a male-dominated world, her refusal was undoubtedly a challenge to the unspoken rules of the circle. She whispered to her close friends that she felt she was in danger. Yet the law and order of the time seemed powerless against those dark forces. This long-term mental pressure became the first crack that led to her tragic end. She never screamed for help the way she did in her movies. Instead, she chose to endure everything in silence until her final moment. To understand this strong yet weary soul, we must look at the heavy chain of family that bound Thelma Todd tightly. She was born into an ordinary family in Massachusetts. To her mother Alice, she was the only hope and the family's only chance to climb the social ladder. Alice was an extremely strong-willed and controlling woman. After Thelma became famous, Alice took charge of almost all her finances and social arrangements. This overbearing reliance left Thelma trapped in deep loneliness. Beyond her beauty and wealth, no one truly cared about her inner fears. Her success in Hollywood was less a dream come true, and more a way to fulfill her mother's unfulfilled ambitions. She laughed brightly in front of the camera, playing innocent and carefree comedic roles. But once the spotlight faded, she would sit alone in front of the mirror for hours, lost in thought. She went through a failed marriage. Her husband Pat DiCicco was a typical opportunist with a record of domestic violence and extortion. After the divorce, Thelma tried to find a true sense of belonging, only to become entangled in a complicated emotional relationship with director Roland West. Roland was an eccentric and possessive man, acting both as her business partner and her emotional keeper. Inside that luxurious mansion, Thelma was like a bird locked in a gilded cage. Every window was exquisitely carved, yet there was no way for her to escape. Now, let us return to that cursed Christmas Eve. The small details of that night hold the key to solving the mystery. Thelma attended a grand banquet held at the Trocadero. She appeared unusually lively, even faintly anxious throughout the event. She met her ex-husband at the party, and the two fell into a low yet fierce argument. No one knows exactly what he said to her that night. At 3 o'clock in the early morning, Thelma was driven back to the mansion she shared with Roland West. Roland had made it clear that if she came back after 2 a.m., he would lock all the doors. That night, the doors were indeed locked. Dressed only in her thin evening gown, Thelma was left stranded outside in the bitter December wind. This is the most eerie detail of the whole case. She should have had a key, or she could have knocked on the door, but she did neither. She walked straight toward the car parked inside the garage. Perhaps she hoped to warm herself, or simply wait quietly inside until dawn. She started the engine, and carbon monoxide spread silently through the enclosed space. It was an extremely peaceful way to die, like a gentle hidden trap. What sends chills down the spine is how perfectly composed her body was found. Her hair remained neat, her makeup intact, without any trace of struggle. This restrained and undisturbed death became one of the most controversial scenes in Hollywood history. As the investigation unfolded, the hypocrisy of the city gradually surfaced. The police initially tried to rule her death a suicide. But forensic examiners found faint marks on Thelma's throat, suggesting external interference. Some witnesses even claimed they had seen her walking on the streets of Los Angeles the very day after her death. What does this imply? Did someone stage the death scene? Or did the witnesses only see a look-alike? Strangely enough, Thelma's restaurant account books vanished mysteriously after her passing. All evidence related to the mafia and money laundering disappeared without a trace. A grand jury finally ruled the case an accidental suicide. It was a contradictory term, yet it perfectly covered up the power struggles hidden behind the truth. Her mother Alice's attitude was equally chilling. She insisted in court that her daughter had no suicidal thoughts, yet quickly moved away with a huge insurance payout soon after. As for Roland West, he spent the rest of his life trapped in deep guilt. He confessed to friends that he had seen Thelma lingering outside through the door crack that night, yet refused to open the door out of petty anger. The combined indifference of everyone around her pushed a vibrant life into eternal silence. Everyone seemed to be complicit, yet everyone pretended to be just an onlooker. The unspoken rules of that era were like a violent storm, and Thelma was its most beautiful yet most fragile sacrifice. The story seems to have come to an end. The Spanish-style seaside mansion now serves an entirely different purpose. Yet if you pass by late at night, you might still hear the faint rumble of the vintage car's engine lingering in the wind. What Thelma Todd truly left behind is far more than her smiling images on old black and white films. It is a profound reflection on choice and its inevitable price. She tried to guard her own small peaceful corner in a world flooded with desire, only to realize the price was her entire life. Tonight, as we talk about the ice cream girl, let us set aside all conspiracy theories and those heavy hidden ledgers. Remember only a girl named Thelma, who loved the sea breeze and once hoped to take control of her own fate through hard work. On that quiet Christmas Eve before the snow arrived, she tidied her evening gown gently and closed her eyes forever. The fire in the fireplace has faded. The stars outside remain cold and quiet. In this life we need not dwell on, she has finally gained eternal peace. Let yourself sink slowly into peaceful sleep along with her story. Good night, Thelma. Good night, every soul seeking comfort in the quiet night.